Hello, everybody. This is Colby Harchie, your General Manager, and welcome to Avila Beach and Blacklake Workplace Violence Prevention Training. In today's training, you will learn about California's workplace violence prevention law. You will learn how to identify, evaluate, and correct workplace violence hazards. You will learn the provisions of Avila Beach and Blacklake Golf Resort Workplace Violence Prevention Plan and how you can get involved in developing and implementing our plan. You will learn how to report and investigate workplace violence incidents, and you will also learn how to seek assistance to prevent or respond to violence and learn strategies to avoid physical harm. It is extremely important that all employees understand our workplace violence prevention plan. Our plan is designed to protect employees as well as visitors, clients, and customers from any threat of violence or workplace violence. Employees must be familiar with the company's WVPP and their role in preventing and addressing incidents of workplace violence. How to obtain a copy of the WVPP. A copy of the WVP plan is available and accessible to employees both electronically and physically at no extra cost. To obtain a copy of the WVP plan, contact Colby Harchie, myself, the General Manager, at colby@avilabeachresort.com, or you can call my cell phone at 310-874-0146, and I'll be happy to send that over to you. WVPP Administrator. Who is the WVPP Administrator? Well, the WVPP Administrator is myself, Colby Harchie, the General Manager. What does the WVPP Administrator do? The WVPP Administrator is responsible for implementing the WVPP, overseeing the workplace violence hazard assessment and inspections, and responding to reports of workplace violence. Who supports the WVPP Administrator in implementing the plan? Well, that is Stephen Martinez, our Golf Manager. The WVPP Administrator will ensure that implementation of the plan is coordinated with other employers whose employees are reasonably expected to be in the workplace. Workplace violence. What is it and why does it happen? What is workplace violence? Well, workplace violence is any act of violence or threat of violence that occurs in a place of employment, including the threat or use of physical force against employee that results in or has high likelihood of resulting in injury, psychological trauma, or stress, regardless of whether employee sustains an injury. Any incident involving a threat or use of a firearm or other dangerous weapon, including the use of common objects as weapons, regardless of whether the employee sustains an injury. Workplace violence does not include lawful acts of self-defense or the defense of others. Okay, everyone, we're going to take a few moments to do a little quiz, and this is a true or false quiz. And I'm going to give you a little bit of time to think about your answers before I give you the correct answer. So, question number 1, workplace violence is usually committed by violent employees who just snap without any warning signs. Take a moment to think about that and think about your answer. Okay, the answer to number 1A is false. Warning signs are often demonstrated and people don't usually snap. So we need to look for these warning signs, we need to pay attention, and we need to act before it gets to that point. Question number 2. Workplace violence only happens in areas where there are high incidents of crime. Take a moment to think about that one. Okay, number 2. The answer to number 2 is false. It does not matter whether the workplace is in a safe part of town or not. Workplace violence can occur in even the safest parts of town. So it can happen here at Avila Beach Golf Resort, and it can also happen at Blacklake Golf Resort. All right, question number 3. You don't need to report an incident unless an employee is injured during the incident. Take a moment to think about that. Okay, the answer to number 3 is false. It does not matter whether the employee is actually injured. It may still be workplace violence, so make sure you report it. What are the types of workplace violence? Well, there's 4 types of workplace violence. Type 1 violence is workplace violence committed by a person who has no legitimate business at the worksite and includes violent acts by anyone who enters the workplace or approaches workers with the intent to commit a crime. Type 2 violence, workplace violence directed at employees by customers, clients, patients, students, inmates, or visitors. Type 3 violence, workplace violence against an employee by a present or former employee, supervisor, or manager. So this can include, like it says, former employees. It doesn't have to be an existing employee. It could be somebody who worked at your facility years and years ago. Type 4 violence, workplace violence committed in the workplace by a person who does not work there but has or is known to have had a personal relationship with an employee. So it could be a husband, it could be a wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, aunt, uncle, cousin, anything along those lines. In our next few slides, we'll be going over workplace violence prevention plan elements, and those will include employee responsibility and involvement, communication procedures, reporting procedures, incident and emergency response procedures, post-incident response and investigation procedures, hazard identification and correction, record keeping and evaluation of the WVP plan. Okay, now we're going to talk about your responsibility as an employee and how you can be involved. You need to know your role. All employees are responsible for using safe work practices, following policies and procedures for maintaining a safe work environment, and promoting safety wherever and whenever possible. Employee responsibilities include be respectful to all persons, refrain from threatening, harassing, or dangerous behavior, report all threats, violent acts, or workplace hazards to your supervisor or manager. Cooperate with efforts to resolve workplace violence concerns. Evaluate each situation. Document any workplace violence incident. Call security or law enforcement if an employee, customer, or visitor is demonstrating violent behavior and safety may be compromised. The company encourages active involvement of employees in developing and implementing our plan. How to prevent workplace violence. Number 1, you want to evaluate each situation. Number 2, you want to be alert to potential dangers and trust your instincts. Number 3, do not isolate yourself. Number 4, always keep an open path for exiting. Number 5, recognize pre-attack behavior. Some of these are things that can happen before someone is about to attack you or somebody else. You may see widening of the eyes or jerky eye movements. You may see quick breathing. You may see clenched fists or twitching muscles. And you may also see uncontrolled yelling. So if you see any of these, be prepared. There could be an attack coming your way or somebody else's way. Okay, everybody, this is a big one. Communication is key. To maintain a safe and secure work environment, we must maintain communication on matters of workplace violence with all employees. We want to facilitate a continuous flow of two-way, that's between management, supervisor, and employees, safety, health, and security information in a form that is readily understandable and maintained without fear of reprisal. This includes, number one, open communication system to inform employees of any conditions that increase the risk of workplace violence. Number two, we want to post and distribute safety information. Number three, reporting system for reporting workplace violence incidents and concerns. Employee role, reporting workplace violence and the response. When in doubt, just make sure to report. All employees are required to report any threats or acts of workplace violence and should do so as follows. Number one, notify your supervisor, report all violence incidents, threats, or other workplace violence concerns to your manager, supervisor, or the WVPP administrator without fear of reprisal. If you wish to report anonymously, contact Colby Harchie, myself, the general manager, at colby@avilabeachresort.com. Number two, the manager, supervisor, or manager on duty will contact law enforcement, if appropriate, and coordinate with law enforcement on the reporting and investigating of the violent incident. Number three, department managers will complete a violent incident log. The WVPP administrator will inform the reporting employee of the investigation results and any resulting corrective action that needs to be taken. The company strictly prohibits retaliation against any employee for making a report of workplace violence. Okay, everyone, now we're going to talk about incident and emergency response procedures. De-escalating a volatile situation. These are the do's and don'ts. Number one, don't block exits. We want to make sure that we leave an escape route for yourself and others. Number two, don't match the threat. Speak in an even tone of voice and present polite and calm attitude. Number three, don't give orders. You want to keep communication simple, to the point, and focused. Number four, don't fight back. You want to avoid physical contact and aggressive behavior. Number five, don't get too close. We want to maintain a safe distance and a physical barrier. Number six, if the situation cannot be diffused, remove yourself from the situation. How to get help. If you need help dealing with a workplace emergency, please contact myself, Colby Harchie, at 310-874-0146. If you cannot reach me, please reach out to our safety coordinator and facility manager, Stephen Martinez, at 805-863-7638. And if you think you need law enforcement, obviously, please call 911. What happens next? Post-incident response procedures. Post-incident response and investigation. When a violent incident takes place, the WVPP administrator or designee will promptly conduct a post-incident response and investigation. The post-incident response procedures are as follows. Number 1, provide immediate medical care or first aid to any injured employee. Number 2, take any measures necessary to prevent others from being injured. Number 3, identify all employees involved in the incident. Number 4, assess whether any additional threats remain. Number 5, conduct post-incident debriefing sessions as soon as possible with all employees involved. Number 6, check in with affected team members. Number 7, report the incident as required by Human Resources or any agency. Number 8, evaluate the incident for gaps or deficiencies in emergency response plans. Post-incident response and investigation. The investigation procedures are as follows. Number 1, we want to collect factual information. Visit scenes of incident, take pictures, and preserve evidence. Interview involved workers and any witnesses. Obtain any reports completed by law enforcement. Number 2, we want to determine the root cause. We want to involve workers at the worksite to receive any specific insight into potential causes and solutions. We want to examine the area for security risk factors associated with the incident, including any previous reports of misconduct by the perpetrator. We also want to identify any contributing causes. And number 3, identify and institute any corrective actions and preventative measures. Violence incident log. Be a fantastic reporter. Refrain from discussing the details of the incident with others before recording the description of the perpetrator and other details. General Manager will record all relevant details in the violent incident log as soon as possible. The template log is attached to the plan. Try to get descriptions from any witnesses to the incident and be sure to get their names and addresses before they leave. Hazard assessment and correction. Hazard assessment. We will conduct periodic inspections of the workplace to identify and evaluate workplace violence hazards and threats of workplace violence. Inspections will be performed after each workplace violence incident, when new or previously unidentified security hazards are recognized, and at least semi-annually. Identify workplace hazards. Here are some examples of workplace hazards. Working in isolated locations, poor lighting, leaving employee access doors unlocked, no system to warn others of security dangers, no effective escape routes. Report workplace hazards. If you become aware of a workplace hazard, report the hazard to your supervisor, manager, or the WVPP administrator. Document the hazard and take photos so that management can correct the unsafe conditions and/or work practices in a timely manner based on the severity of the hazard. Retaliation against any employee for reporting a workplace hazard concern is strictly prohibited. Hazard correction. We will correct unsafe conditions in a timely manner based on the severity of the hazard. Each employee plays a part in helping management correct workplace hazards. Some examples of corrective measures include requesting a security escort when working in isolated areas, report burned out or inadequate lighting, keep employee access doors closed and locked, report unknown strangers and suspicious behavior, use the buddy system for emergency events, warn others of any security danger. How to handle different types of workplace violence situations. Active shooter. Here's what you need to know. Active shooter events have become all too common these days, so we want to give you some tips to help you survive an active shooter event. Employees should know how to respond individually to incidents of workplace violence and active intruders. We want to run, we want to hide, and we want to fight. Individual response to a shooter. Number 1, run if you can. If you can escape without getting closer to the shooter, be sure to have an escape route and a plan in mind. Run regardless of what others do. Leave your belongings behind. Help others escape if it doesn't endanger you. Call 911 as soon as you're in a safe location. Hands up. All right, number 2, if you're unable to run, you want to make sure you hide. And you want to make sure that your hiding place has the following elements. You want it to be out of sight. You want to be able to conceal yourself, obviously. You want to maybe do that in a dark office. You want to do it in an area that provides protection from bullets, behind a heavy door, something to that nature. Also want to make sure you don't trap or restrict your options for movement or escape. To prevent a shooter from finding or entering your hiding place, you want to, number 1, lock the door. You want to blockade the door with heavy furniture. You want to make sure that lights, radios, phones, anything that can make noise is turned off. And you want to make sure that you do not shout or make any noise. Once again, the most important thing here is to lock the door and get as many things between bullets and yourself. So you want to blockade that door as much as you can to prevent bullets from getting through and hitting you. Okay, this is a really important topic here. There may be a chance that you're unable to run and you're unable to hide and you're face to face with an active shooter. So here's what you're going to need to do. You're going to need to fight. Experts say that complying and begging usually won't work. So don't beg for your life. You have to fully commit. You have to fight for your life. You need to be highly aggressive, scream, yell, rush forward. You need to throw things, use improvised weapons, scissors, lamp, anything that you can find that you can use against this person with the gun. You want to move towards exits while distracting the shooter. You want to attack their groin, eyes, knees, or throat. Don't ease up or stop until you are safely evacuated or the shooter is down for good. Act of violence by a coworker, customer, vendor, or visitor. Coworker, customer, or other visitor violence. The company has a zero tolerance policy for violent acts or threats of violence against our employees, customers, or other visitors. This includes discussions of use of dangerous weapons, even if it's in a joking manner. If you're subjected to or threatened with violence by a coworker or anyone else at work, or you are aware of another individual who has been subjected to or threatened with violence, you are to report this information to your supervisor or manager or human resources as soon as possible. All threats should be taken seriously. Guns and other weapons. Guns or any other weapons are strictly prohibited and are not permitted on our premises. If you are found with any of these items in your possession, you will be subject to severe disciplinary action up to and including termination. Responding to customer theft, the wrong thing to do. If you suspect a customer is taking merchandise, under no circumstances are you to stop the customer. You should not try to approach or detain the customer. Violating this policy places both the company and the employee at risk and will not be tolerated. Employees who stop or detain customers on suspicion of theft will be subject to disciplinary action up to and including termination. Responding to customer theft. The right thing to do. Number 1, if you suspect a customer of theft, immediately notify the manager on duty and the WVPP administrator. Number 2, document any identifying information regarding the customer. An example would be their hair color, age, height, approximate weight, anything along those lines. Number 3, provide information about the suspect to management and/or law enforcement. Record keeping and review. Record keeping. We will maintain records as follows. Hazard identification and correction records will be kept for at least 5 years. Violent incident log records will be kept for at least 5 years. Training records will be kept for at least 1 year. Investigation records will be kept for at least 5 years. Hazard identification and evaluation records, training records, and violent incident logs will be available to employees upon their request. Review of the WVPP. We will periodically review the effectiveness of the WVPP, including the violent incident logs, and revise the plan as needed. The WVPP will be reviewed annually when a deficiency is observed or becomes apparent and after a workplace violence incident. The WVPP will be reviewed by management and any participating employees. We encourage all employees to review and develop the WVPP. Any comments or suggestions for improving the plan may be provided to the WVPP administrator, myself, Colby Harchie, at colby@avilabeachresort.com. Workplace violence recap. Realize that workplace violence is a real and present danger. Stay alert for signs of violence. Take security measures to avoid workplace violence. Take immediate action when faced with threatening or violent behavior. Report all threats of violent behavior, and help victims cope with the aftermath of violence. Please remember that if you don't report it, we can't investigate it. If you witness, experience, or learn of any non-emergency violent incidents, report the incident to your manager or supervisor or by calling the WVPP administrator at 310-874-0146. If you think a matter is an emergency, please dial 911. For any questions, concerns, or suggestions regarding the training or the WVPP, please contact me, Colby Harchie, the General Manager, at 310-874-0146. Thank you. Thank you for taking part in our training today. I hope you have a great rest of your day.